and Amy Jacobson.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said when you're
Top of the morning,
out.
Dan and Amy. That theme music means it's time for a weekly conversation with Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Before we get to Ted, are you like me and you want to hear more from Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard?
Oh, she is the gift that keeps on giving, and she is so oblivious to what is going on there, or less maybe she's trying to fool people. But yeah, anything you got, Dan. What is she doing now? Is she doing singing grams or what?
No, she's launched a new podcast, and you can ask her questions that may form the topics that she'll cover in her podcast.
Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the people's mayor. So I heard you guys was looking for me. If you looking for Tiffany Henyard, press the subscribe button. Yes, you. Press the subscribe button. So, what you want me to talk about? This or that? This and that? Or me? Tiffany Henyard. You pick. Put your questions in the comments, and I'm going to answer all questions. Just be respectful. If you disrespectful, I'm not going to answer it. Because remember, I got the tea with the receipts. Matter of fact, if you want the tea, get it from me. Go tell that.
If you want the tea, you get it from me. I assume she means truth. I don't know. Or Tiffany. You get the tea, you want the tea, you get it from me. It's very rhythmic. It's funny. I've sort of missed, since the Shaw brothers have gone away and Dorothy Tillman, I've sort of missed more colorful William Beavers, more colorful politicians in Illinois. And Tiffany Henyard is satiating that appetite I have. Now, I will say one thing about this Tiffany Henyard and the village of Dolton.
Yeah.
Which is now because of her flamboyance. She has become a national figure of sorts. Certainly getting national coverage. Her flamboyance and her very liberal use of other people's money to enhance her lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Got to get her nails done, Dan.
I mean, to the credit of the village board, I mean, I don't want you to get the idea that, or to give the impression that Tiffany Henyard is sort of representative, despite her self-described position as the people's mayor. She was elected in 21. She was recalled a year later. So within a year, a majority of the Dolton Village Board had revolted because of Tiffany Henyard's revolting conduct. And they actually put a ballot question out for the residents of Dolton to vote, and they voted her out.
Then why wasn't she out?
Because she challenged the constitutionality of the recall question, and she won at the appellate court level. There is the Illinois appellate court coming to the rescue of the political class once again. What else is new? The argument was that the creation of the mechanism for recall and the actual question to recall couldn't have been on the same ballot, shouldn't have been on the same ballot. They were, and thus she skated on the recall. So, the residents of Dolton, and it seems to a majority of the village board of Dolton, has the download on Tiffany Henyard. So maybe there will be some sense next election that is delivered, on behalf of those people that Tiffany Henyard says she represents. So it's just interesting.
Right.
It's just interesting because if these communities like Dolton don't have enough problems, and then they become laughing stocks because of politicians like Henyard,
And to interfere with the election. She said the next mayor is only going to make $25,000 a year. as opposed to what she makes. And the question I'd ask for her on her podcast is, do you know the FBI is investigating you?
Oh, the FBI, please. The FBI has investigated so many, quote unquote, investigated so many municipal officials. How long did they investigate Eric Kellogg when he was mayor of Harvey to no particular end? I mean, I think we have a more robust understanding of the FBI than maybe we did a generation ago. I certainly do. And I have zero faith, just about zero faith in the FBI when it comes to political corruption, much of anything else, too. I mean, it's a joke.
It only took them 3 decades to get Mike Madigan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a joke. And, oh, yeah, the prosecutions of governors and so on and so forth. I mean, I wouldn't telescope that too far into the future, and this is already too far into the future. Yeah, I don't buy it for a second. By the way, there's been a lot of U.S. attorneys in a bygone era too that were that turned a blind eye to the political corruption that had been ongoing. Say, for example, with Madigan and Burke. So, I mean, yeah, the FBI's investigating. I wouldn't be too afraid. Although they do like low-hanging fruit where they don't have to think too much and work too hard.
Exactly.
And so if, this is why they usually pick off the alderman who takes $500 in cash in an envelope and they, turn a blind eye to the kingpins because, well, that's too complicated and involved. For more on this and other matters, please be joined by Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org. Ted, thanks as always for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. And, it's going to be really hard to get her out of the way. I see one of her billboards, or at least posters, it says, "I am and forever will be Dolton's mayor."
I see that every Saturday driving through the Southland. There's right there.
Forever will be.
I
Well,
will be. And then she's pointing at you, and it's all this sparkle and bedazzle. And,
Yeah, that's it.
I
her
like
glamour
sparkle.
shots.
Sounds a little bit like Putin.
Yeah, although I don't even think he's that aggressive
he did,
to put on billboards, "I will be your president forever." Especially in his first term. It's very, very aggressive, but I like that. I like that confidence. And, but I mean, there is this, and it's very frustrating because I don't think very many people know the story about the recall because, of course, why would the Chicago Press Corps give any context to this? Why would any due diligence be done? But it does speak to this real tension I have, and I suspect you do too. There are good people in Dolton. There are responsible elected officials on that board. There are sensible people there. And you could say the same thing about a lot of the other South suburban communities that are disasters. And yet we just can't seem to get ourselves clear to, aligned leadership that is of that sensible variety that can actually advance policies that try to improve the future for those communities.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is you mentioned Kellogg and Harvey. You hear the stories over and over of communities who somehow self-inflict themselves by putting in these people. The funny part is, Dan, that we're talking about Dolton and Harvey, but it's the same thing for things like Illinois as well, right? Where we do the same thing to ourselves. So it's pretty much an Illinois thing, deeply throughout the state.
Jelly Belly's budget. I was off for a couple of days. I don't know if you've had it, but we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week because he didn't give a State of the State address in that time. So, so we're going to whack those who like to gamble on sports and $800 million in tax increases on corporations. I love that reporting because that doesn't get passed on to consumers. That's how we're going to fill this budget deficit we have because we got to make sure we take care of the people most important to the Illinois political ruling class, and those are the people in this country and in this state illegally.
Yeah, so Dan, this is you and I and Amy have covered these budgets for a long, long time in Illinois. It's pretty much always the same story. There's a bunch of embedded tax hikes, a bunch of spending to special interest groups. And it's never balanced and all that. And, I think I got frustrated this time around. I just said, look, I'm not going to get into the details of the budget because it's the same old discussion. And you just nailed it by covering a couple things. I think probably the best way to look at this budget and Pritzker's budget is to look at kitchen table issues and how they've been since he took over in 2019. much like the whole Reagan question, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And I think that's the best way to look at these budgets. And undeniably, people are far worse off. I mean, Pritzker's budgets and Pritzker's policies have made a mess. And so, you look at kitchen table issues like jobs. We have fewer people employed today than when he took over. We have property taxes that are far higher today than when he took over. And he even promised in 2020 in his budget speech that he would do something about them. Gas prices, he doubled the taxes. We have the second, we have second highest gas taxes and some of the highest gas prices in the country. Inflation, he was a champion of all the bailouts. He was the biggest champion for governors of all the COVID bailouts. He deserves a lot of the blame for the inflation in this country, and certainly that Illinois have suffered. And things like education, we put in billions more since Browner's evidence-based funding, and Pritzker's added much more, and yet our kids aren't learning. So all these kitchen table issues are just failures, and Pritzker owns that. And instead he's got us talking budget lines, and that's kind of why I refuse to. I mean, I don't refuse, but it's just not worth talking about these individual things because it's just another failed budget, just like we talked about Dolton and Harvey. Yeah. It's just another failed leadership in Illinois.
So last Friday, a circuit court judge ruled that the question on the ballot of the Bring Chicago Home referendum was unconstitutional. And the woman in charge of it, she said that the reason why a judge ruled this way because of MAGA people. MAGA.
When far right special interests cannot win with the people, they take it to the court. Yes, they do. They take away our health care, they take away our housing, they take away our right to vote. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, and she blamed MAGA earlier. That wasn't in the soundbite, but yeah. So where does this go from here?
Well, so Judge Kathleen Burke, she's a Democrat, and I don't know much about her, but she's certainly a Democrat, and the fact that they would imply MAGA is pretty crazy here. I guess it kind of goes with the Jussie Smollett stuff.
Yeah, but, MAGA territory. Mm-hmm.
Look, that's right. Yeah, this is it's the first good ruling we've had in a long time. It sticks, but this is a situation where, and it's much like the progressive tax, where they buy off 95% of the voters with a benefit, so you can stick it to the other 5%, and that's a crazy thing to put on a ballot. I don't know why. That same argument or same rejection should have happened to the progressive tax as it did here, because all you're doing in these ballot initiatives is paying off people to vote for something that hurts a small group of people. That's wrong.
I tell you, school choice is expanding in Iowa. You got the hard cap on property taxes in Indiana, another Midwestern state comparable to ours. It's floating a proposal to eliminate their state income tax because of the windfall in tax revenue they've generated from the profits that have been generated from the natural gas exploration and extraction, the Marcellus and the Utica shale deposits in Ohio. So now Republicans in Ohio have a plan to phase out a state income tax that's still a percentage point lower than ours at the top level. Theirs is only 3.99, but they want to phase it out to zero by 2030. How about that?
Well, it's a popular thing to do. We wrote about this, I guess, a couple months ago, where states across the country, the whole thing of the progressive tax proposal here in Illinois was the big outlier in the country, because everybody's been moving to flat taxes. I shouldn't say everybody. Lots of states have been moving to flat taxes, and a lot of them want to eliminate the income tax. They've seen how successful it's been for Florida and Tennessee and Texas and other states. So to see Ohio think about it is great. Iowa's been talking about it. So we're soon going to be surrounded by states that have far lower taxes than us, and some that have zero income taxes.
And they have, and as we like to say, they have schools and they have police departments and fire departments and state government with state employees and all that fun stuff, and they can still somehow manage to do that without taxing work. It's remarkable. Or liquidating your home in the case of Indiana.
Right. That's the big thing that people forget or get confused about, is that we can tax consumption and all that, but the last thing we should be taxing either heavily or at all is labor. We want people to work, and we want to incentivize people to work hard and keep their money. So that's the last thing we should be taxing.
Ted Dabrowski, President Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Ted, thanks as always.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Stop letting pain in your joints keep you from doing what you want to do this spring. Call QC Kinetics now. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. I'm talking lasting joint pain relief